What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From The Bench Vols. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and welcome to our Friday edition of the show, where we have a lot of Tennessee football to talk about once again. Today's topic is going to be what Tennessee has to do, what games they have to win in order to make a college football playoff push once again as they did last year, what the possibilities are, what teams are clear-cut better than Tennessee, and who also is in the mix for kind of a lower tier of college football playoff teams. All that and more on today's episode of From The Bench Vols. But before we get into any of that, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, share it, do what you will with it. Everything is greatly appreciated. And again, this is the last episode that I will have to say this, but we are selling t-shirts. It is allhearttees.com. The sale ends on Sunday, so make sure you guys grab your t-shirts before then. Again, allhearttees.com, and a free gift with every order. I will try and have the graphic up here. I will have the graphic up here again. I figured it out last episode, but the graphic will be right here. Make sure you guys go get your t-shirts. One last time, allhearttees.com, and a free gift with every order. But let's get right into the football side of things. You guys aren't here to talk about merchandise and t-shirts. We're here to talk about football and what does Tennessee have to do in order to make a college football playoff push once again? And we'll start with the schedule. The bare minimum is 10-2. There's a few teams last year who got close getting in with 9-3. That was South Carolina. That was Alabama. Schools like that. I don't think there's any chance that you get in with 9-3 just because of Tennessee's schedule, right? If they lose 3 games, I don't think that they're going to have enough quality wins to make a case to get on there at 9-3. Obviously, Alabama had a Georgia win on their resume last year and didn't have what it takes to get in. This year, you've got Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and maybe in Oklahoma as signature win moments. Other than that, it's games that you are expected to win. They're 14-point or 13.5-point favorites against Syracuse. Against Arkansas, you're going to be favored. That one's at home. And then on the road, you're not going to be underdogs at Mississippi State or anything like that. Everything else you are expected to win, and they're going to be favored against Oklahoma, in my opinion, unless it's just a train wreck at that point of the season. But it's at home. It's at Neyland Stadium, the hardest place to play in America. You're probably going to be favored over Oklahoma at that point in the season too. So really all but 3 games, you are going to be the favorite. And those are supposed to be games that you're going to win. So I don't think that you have any chance at all to get in there at 9-3 just because you won't have enough quality wins. Or if you do have enough quality wins, you have some really bad losses in there. So I don't think that there's any chance that they get in there at 9-3. But at 10-2, that's where you're really talking. Because at 10-2, that's where you've beat 2 of Oklahoma. Most likely, you've beat 2 of Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. I think Florida is going to be a very good football team, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on Oklahoma. I know they may not have the big name value like in Alabama, and we saw what we did to them on the road last year. They had a down year last year, but John Mateer is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC and in the country. And then Jaden Knott, the transfer from California, that he's a guy. I mean, he's going to be one of the better running backs in the SEC this year. That backfield is going to be disgusting. That has a case to be made for one of, if not the best backfields in all of college football when it's all said and done. I mean, obviously there's a few that come to mind, Garrett Nussmeier and Caden Durham. A lot of good backfields in the SEC and in the country, but that's right up there with them. Jaden Knott and John Mateer. Oklahoma is going to be a very solid football team. So you've got to go 10-2. And we've got right here, right in front of me, the AP poll, top 25, preseason, and I'm looking to see what teams are clear-cut. I don't think there's hardly any chance that Tennessee has any chance to be better than them. And I'm being pretty lenient with this. I'm not going to put Alabama and I'm not going to put Georgia because you have a chance to beat both of those teams. And both of those teams have quarterback controversy, so I'm not going to put those 2. Texas is a clear-cut better football team than Tennessee, no matter what happens. And Ohio State is another one of these teams. If Julian Sayin is not good this year, the quarterback one, newly announced quarterback one for Ohio State will still be better than Tennessee. I'm just going to put it quite frankly honest. Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oregon. There's 6 right there. No matter how good you think Notre Dame is, they have one of the best defenses in the country. They have the best running back in the country in Jeremiah Love, and their schedule is very, very weak. They have a lot of games that they should win. They're going to have a lot of wins by the end of the year. Another SEC team that I think is blatantly better than Tennessee is LSU. I'm so high on LSU. I think LSU is the 3rd best team in the country. I know a lot of people don't agree with that. That's just me. I think that Garrett Nussmeier is incredible. I think, again, Caden Durham is really good. If they can block and run the football even a little bit this year, they should be really, really good. And that receiving core of Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson, and Aaron Anderson is the best receiving core in the SEC this year, and I think it's the second best receiving core in the country, only behind Ohio State. So I've got LSU, so what is that? Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, LSU. So that's 7 right there. Another one that I think is clear-cut better than Tennessee, it's another SEC team, and again, some people may not agree with this. I think South Carolina is a clear-cut better football team from top to bottom this year than Tennessee is. When you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Lenore Sellers, you kind of get that luxury. I think Lenore Sellers is a gamer. He's a playmaker, and he can do it both ways. He can kill you both ways. He is extremely underrated as a passer. His progression from the beginning of the year last year to the end of last year is night and day. It doesn't look like the same guy who was playing football from Old Dominion, who was their Week 1 game last year, to Clemson, who was their last regular season game last year. It doesn't even look like the same guy. Those are 8 teams that I firmly believe are better than Tennessee this year. And then obviously on that bubble, you've got Georgia, Alabama, Miami, Arizona State, Illinois, Florida, who is a dang good football team, Oklahoma, A&M, Ole Miss, Tennessee. I'm mainly naming some of the SEC teams here. I believe that middle-of-the-pack SEC teams are better than SMU and better than Indiana. Don't even get me started on Indiana. Texas Tech is a good football team this year. Iowa State's a good football team this year. There's some solid teams from the Big 12 this year. I think that they're going to have a better conference than they did last year, but I still believe that Tennessee's better than a lot of those teams. We'll see what Kansas State and Iowa State looks like tomorrow. Week 0, college football is finally back. It's a beautiful. I cannot wait to watch that game tomorrow at noon in Ireland. So we'll see what those two teams look like tomorrow. But those are 8 football teams that I think are no doubt better than Tennessee this year. And again, that's 8, and then there's going to be a group of 5 team somewhere in there. I didn't name a Big 12 team, so a Big 12 team is going to be in there. So that's 10 right there. And I did not name Georgia or Alabama. So take that with what you will. That's just kind of all I have to say on that matter. But do I think it's a total long shot that Tennessee makes the playoffs? No, because again, if Joey Aguilar can just not screw up, then I think that this team has what it takes to get to a college football playoff, because they did it last year with a very good run game and with a very good defense. I think this year's defense is going to be better than it was last year, and I think that this run game, again, it doesn't have a Dylan Sampson, but Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, Star Thomas, those guys are going to be able to carry the rock for you. And another one who a lot of people aren't talking about, but he is absolutely balled out in fall camp, is DeJuan Morris. It's going to be a running back by committee. I think Peyton Lewis is your best back. I've said that time and time again. But the run game is going to be very, very solid for Tennessee this year. So a very good defense and a very good run game. If Joey Aguilar can just connect on some deep balls here and there, man, I think this team has all of what it takes to be better than it was last year. Now, granted, other teams got better this year. Again, very notably, a Florida and an Oklahoma got much better this year. LSU got much better this year. And obviously, you got to the playoffs last year. It definitely did not end the way you wanted it to, with the absolute whooping we received from Ohio State. Granted, they ended up doing that to just about everybody. But can you get there? Yes, I think it's a possibility. But it's going to be a lot harder than it was last year. Obviously, I mean, putting it quite frankly honest, with the quarterback situation. If Joey Aguilar can be just what Nico was, I think that there's a chance. But again, I say this time and time again, and I probably sound like a broken record on this show. I'm not giving credit to Nico Iamaleava. I know that a lot of people don't like him. I don't care for him anymore either. But Nico Iamaleava was the number 1 ranked player in all of the transfer portal this year, and Joey Aguilar was mid-1000s. So, again, rankings don't always matter. I think Joey Aguilar is going to be a fine quarterback for Tennessee. I've thought that he was going to be the starter since he got here, and I think a lot of people did. I've said that on my show for the entire summer. But, again, it's just the cold, hard facts that some Tennessee fans may not want to accept that, but that's the truth. So some games that you're going to have to win in order to get to the playoffs. I think, personally, that out of Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, Georgia is your best chance to win. Georgia might be the best team out of the three, but you get them early in the year. It's Gunnar Stockton's first game in the SEC. It's Gunnar Stockton's first road game, and he's playing in the hardest environment in all of college football. I mean, that's not a recipe for success, if you will, for Georgia. I think Georgia's probably a better football team than Alabama and Florida this year, but you're getting Florida at the back end of the year, week 11, in the swamp. That we never went in the swamp, quite frankly, so I'm never going to pick Tennessee to win in the swamp, especially with if we played Florida earlier in the year, maybe I'd have a little bit more confidence, but I think by week 11, DJ Lagway is really going to have college football and that system figured out. I don't like our odds in that one. And then Alabama, again, another one that's a quarterback questions in the air, and Tennessee has all of their quarterback questions too. So it's not like you can say you have a clear-cut advantage at the quarterback position because Alabama has questions. Not at all. Ty Simpson's been in that system for 3 years now. Well, I guess 2 years with Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban switch. But Ty Simpson's their guy. I think Ty Simpson's going to be a fine quarterback, was a Tennessee native. His little brother is a stud here in the state of Tennessee. I think Ty Simpson's going to be a good quarterback. I know a lot of people don't have faith in him. I do think he's going to be a good quarterback. But I think if you want to get one of those three, it's going to have to be week 3 in Neyland Stadium. As crazy as that sounds. I hate to have to bank one of our big wins to be Georgia because we haven't beat them in forever, and they consistently just dominate us. But it's going to have to be Georgia, in my opinion, because, again, I talked about it a lot last year during football season, and I'm the biggest pro Josh Heupel person there is, but the guy doesn't have a true signature road win in his time here at Tennessee. Tennessee has crumbled on the road since becoming back relevant since Hendon Hooker's been here. We saw what happened the first week we got ranked number 1. What happened when we went to Sanford Stadium against Georgia? We got drilled. The box score does not show how bad we got dominated by Georgia that game. That game was never close. 2 years ago with Joe Milton, when we went to Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium, the first half, Tennessee plays one of its best halves of football. Joe Milton himself plays one of his best halves of football. I still think it was his best half of football that he's ever played. And Josh Heupel and the coaching staff fall back, get reluctant, and get passive-aggressive, and they get out of their game plan, and they end up losing that game at Alabama. And then, again, the same year with Joe Milton, you go to the swamp in a year where you are so much better than Florida, and you just get stomped. So we struggle on the road. That's the elephant in the room. It's not a secret, and I'm not breaking news on here, but we struggle on the road. I think Georgia's going to have to be the one that you get this year. I think that you're going to have to go perfect at home. At home, you've obviously got, I'm not even going to count the bad games, but you've got Georgia at home, you've got Oklahoma at home, you've got Arkansas at home, and then, so that's 3. You've got Vanderbilt at home, and that may be it. Yeah, and then the 2 bad ones, I think that might be it. There may be one more that I'm missing there, but you're going to have to go perfect at home, which Tennessee's played incredible at home. To my knowledge, I think they've only lost 1 in the last 3 years, and that was the only game that me and my roommate did not go to, and that was when we played Georgia and Jalen Wright busted out a touchdown on the first play, and we were not there for that, and they ended up losing. So are me and my roommate a good luck charm? Maybe, maybe not. Who's to say? But to my knowledge, they've only lost 1 game at home in the last 3 years. So it's not an impossible task. They're going to have to play very good football to beat Georgia. But again, week 3 in the circumstances, how it lines up with how Georgia is as a football team at that point. And Georgia also kind of historically struggles a little bit in the beginning of the year. They nearly lost to Kentucky at Kentucky last year, which were a lot better team than Kentucky. Georgia's going to have to be one that you want to win if you want to get to the playoffs, in my opinion. And then also, to just schedule aside and who you're playing aside, what are you going to have to do as a football team to get to the playoffs? Well, like I said, you're going to have to run the football well, and you're going to have to play defense because that's going to be the identity of this team. But the better question is, what is Joey Aguilar in this passing game going to have to do? Because that's the question of it all. First, it starts in the trenches. The offensive line is going to have to be good, and I think, and I've said it before, that this offensive line is going to be better than it was last year. I was not very high on our offensive line last year, just being quite honest, but I think that this year it's going to be a new and improved. And yes, there's only one returner, but I think that this offensive line this year is going to be better than it was last year. I love Wendell Moe. I love Sam Pendleton. I think that those guys are going to be great. And then David Sanders is going to make an impact for this team. Day one, Lance Hurd is, again, in his words, night and day to what he was last year. So I think that that offensive line is going to be better. But what is the passing game going to have to do? What is Joey Aguilar and Mike Matthews and Chris Brazzell going to have to do? They're going to have to, again, not screw up. And they're just going to have to get open. Because last year, I said this on Wednesday, as much as you want to blame Nico and look back and say, well, Nico couldn't connect on this, and Nico couldn't do this for you, and Nico, yada, 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 receivers did not help Nico Iamaleava at all last year. We had probably, in my opinion, the worst receiving group in the SEC last year, and you can go down the line, even rooms like Mississippi State, like that room was definitely better than us. Kentucky with Dane Key and Barryon Brown, that room was better than us. I do believe that Tennessee had the worst receiving room in the SEC last year. But Dante Thornton could never stay healthy. And then Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, even Chris Brazzell, and he's going to have to take a big jump in year two. They could not get open. It's not like they were just dropping every pass that comes to them like Georgia struggled with that last year, drops. It's not like the hands were the problem. They could not get open. So was Nico as advertised? No, but neither was that receiving group at all. So Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell and Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson, those guys are going to have to make some plays on the outside and in the slot this year if this team wants any chance to be successful. Now, I'm not saying Joey Aguilar needs to get out there and sling it for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns like Hendon Hooker was doing. But he does need to go out there and throw for 201 touchdown or 202 touchdowns and limit the turnovers in a sense. Because, and I do think that he's going to do that. Did he have a turnover problem last year at App State? 100%. But Josh Heupel's system, again, it's a loose term, but quarterback friendly. It is most definitely quarterback friendly. And I think that it's going to prevent Joey Aguilar to try and play hero ball and make some dumb decisions. I think that this offense will kind of refrain on that, and he's not going to make near as many dumb decisions. And I think Joey Aguilar is not going to. We're not going to see near as many turnovers as we did even in the Sun Belt as we will this year with Joey Aguilar. But they just got to be able to connect on a few deep balls. Again, I hate bringing up Nico and last year's team, but there were some plays. It's not, people like to point fingers at play calling and say that it's not near as explosive as it used to be. No doubt it's not. Alex Golesh is no longer calling your plays. He's the head coach at South Florida. And it's not, you don't have the Blitnikoff and a Hendon Hooker who threw one of, if not the prettiest deep ball in the last decade of college football. So you don't have that. You're exactly right. All those people who are saying that this playbook is not near what it used to be, it's not at all. But they also couldn't run the ball like they do now when Hendon Hooker was here. The running back room is much improved. I think all of the running backs this year, I think Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis, and obviously last year with Dylan Sampson, they were both better than Jabari Small. Jalen Wright took that big step after Jabari Small kind of got out of there, and he was the number one running back with Joe Milton. But the running back room is better. So you're not going to have to rely on guys to throw for 350 yards and just throw it all over the yard and hurry up, and play action and throw a skinny post down the middle of the field. But what you are going to have to do is connect on at least one deep ball a game, because that's where Josh Heupel's offense is so electric. They run the ball down your throat, and then they catch you with an RPO slant, and they catch you with a play action, and somebody's running down single coverage, and they beat a man on a post, and that's how you score touchdowns. They're going to have to connect on some of those. That's where they lacked so much. That's where they had 3 straight games at Neyland without a touchdown in the first half. You can't have that this year, especially because you don't have a Dylan Sampson to just kind of will you out of games. You don't have that. So deep balls are going to have to be connected on this year. It doesn't have to be what everybody wants to see. While, yes, that is so fun to watch, no doubt about it. It doesn't have to be all that. It just has to be a deep ball or two a game for a long touchdown to really open up this offense, allow the defense to not have to stack the box all the time, and allow this running game to open up. And like I've said time and time again, this offense, and it's like this in football in general, but specifically with this RPO-based offense and play-action offense, it all is a trickle-down effect and a domino effect, and the running game helps the passing game, and the passing game helps the running game. So I say all that to say, you just need to be more of an all-around offense, in my opinion. I'm not saying you don't have to throw the ball all over the yard like a lot of people want to see. But if the passing game can do enough to complement the running game like it did in years prior, then that offense, is going to be just fine. And I think that the quarterback play, all the controversy that you had throughout this offseason is seemingly going to be forgotten about. If you can just connect on a few deep balls and continue to run the football, this offense will be just fine. And you can see Tennessee creeping up on a playoff berth, creeping up at 9-3 and 10-2. Next week, we're going to have our official season prediction. So what I think about Tennessee going in next week's game week. So it's been a long time waiting. We've had a long offseason with, obviously, Tennessee's had the craziest offseason in college football. There's no doubt about it. It's been a long offseason, but we are finally here. We have made it to college football. Like I said, it's not Tennessee playing tomorrow, but at least we get some college football with Kansas State and Iowa State, and I think Kansas and Fresno State's playing, Stanford and Hawaii, and some smaller games around those. But I will definitely be tuned in to those. I'm excited for that Kansas State and Iowa State game when that's a top 25 matchup. That's going to be a very good football game. So college football is back. Next week, it will be a game week. We are going to be Wednesday and Friday next week again. And then after this past weekend, we might change it up. I will let you guys know on all the socials. And probably by Friday next week if we are going to change it. Because, again, you guys don't care what I have to say. Right now it's Wednesday and Friday. You don't want to hear what I have to say about Saturday on Wednesday, because at that point it's old news. Going to try and have to get one of those closer to Saturday. But I think this is going to wrap it up for today's Friday edition of From the Bench Vols. Once again, go grab your t-shirts. You've seen me wear it 100 times. I will have the graphic right here in black and in gray. Sales end Sundays. It is allhearttees.com, a free gift with every order. So make sure you guys go grab your shirts. 2 days left to get those shirts. But I appreciate you guys for joining me on this episode of From the Bench Vols. I will see you guys on Wednesday, and go Vols.